Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of January 30th to February 5th, and we got basically 4 stories to cover, including Nintendo releasing their financial report. It looks like the FTC will be looking into basically what Microsoft is doing in terms of purchasing the Activision Blizzard, though. Somewhat of a surprise to see Sony actually buying another studio, though, which is very interesting. And of course, issues about the possibility that we could see a next-gen version of Cyberpunk 2077, though. If you're interested where I got the source of a lot of these stories, though, I'll have links down in the description down below, if assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do, which is basically the quick My 2 Cent stories that kind of caught my attention, though, but not going to go into a huge amount of details, to be exact, though. The first one is that both Koei Tecmo has confirmed some of the sales numbers for their games Blue Reflection and the Fatal Frame, and supposedly those games did very well, though, although Fatal Frame seemed to have done a bit better than Blue Reflection, though. Some of that may be because some of these are sort of a niche titles, others are the fact that they are released on multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch. But either way, assuming this is the kind of numbers Koei Tecmo was expecting, though, I do hope that this signals maybe possibly a port of the other Fatal Frame games, maybe the one that never saw the light of day here in the West, that was released on the Wii, or maybe a brand new entry, though. So we'll see what this means going forward for the series in terms of whether Koei Tecmo will do another entry in the Fatal Frame series, though. We also learned that Nintendo has struck down one of the YouTubers by the name of Gunnas, as G-I-V. I apologize if I'm not saying his name correctly, but this YouTuber is known for basically putting up soundtracks from video games, whether it's like Donkey Kong Country Returns or other NES games, or other Nintendo games to be exact. But it looks like Nintendo, with their lawyers, went after this and basically had this person take down 1,300 uploads of video game soundtracks from YouTube, and supposedly this person is retiring from YouTube, though. I am still kind of mixed on this situation, to be exact. While I understand Nintendo has a right to protect their IPs, and there are cases where I think Nintendo is spot on it, I do kind of feel that there are times when I think Nintendo does go a little bit overboard, to be exact, though. And I really do wish that Nintendo would put the soundtracks to their games on stuff like ranging from Spotify to iTunes, though. I think people would pay money to listen to them, and some of the video game musics are actually good, including the ones from Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, with some songs being maybe a remake from like Donkey Kong, from the other Donkey Kong Country games, though. So it's another case of Nintendo being very aggressive of protecting their IPs. Whether you think they go overboard or not, ultimately that's going to be your call on that one. We also learned that supposedly that basically one of the lead designers for Bayonetta 3 has basically left and is now working at Tango Gameworks. For those who are not familiar, Tango Gameworks is head up by the former creator of the Resident Evil series, though, which is owned by Bethesda, which is also owned by Microsoft, to be exact. We know they are currently working on their game Ghostwire Tokyo, which they showed off a deep dive gameplay, and honestly, I'm looking forward to picking that game up, even if that's the last Bethesda game that we're going to see on a PlayStation system, though it's still going to be worth picking up, to be exact. Hopefully, as for this lead designer that left Platinum, though, hopefully it was on a good term, and that hopefully that he does whatever he does at Tango Gameworks. So hopefully we'll see what it turns out. Maybe a brand new IP. Maybe he's worked on Ghostwire Tokyo. Maybe maybe this person's working on Evil Within 3, which I certainly would be down if they do an Evil Within 3, to be exact, though. We also learned that a French retailer has sort of basically put up warning signs on the PS5 to choose their system carefully after we learned about how Microsoft has owned Xbox acquisitions, though. I would say I'm not entirely a big fan of this kind of approach, and I'm sure either Sony or the people in charge of retail wouldn't like to see something like that. I mean, yes, it is true to some extent that you may want to consider it, though, since the issue of surrounding Call of Duty is sort of murky after they conclude their contract obligations. Microsoft has said that they would like to continue Call of Duty to be on PlayStation or multiple platforms, but that could change over time once this acquisition goes through. So I can understand why you might want to choose your console carefully. I just don't agree with this approach, to be exact, though. We also learned that MLB The Show got a new stylish trailer, and that game is also coming to the Nintendo Switch, although there is reports that there may be some download requirements, to be exact. But it is interesting to see that a PlayStation's developed game is going to be coming to its rival consoles, the Switch and the Xbox Series system. Does this mean that Sony's going to bring their other IPs to the Switch or anything like that? No. I think this may just have to do with the MLB license. I really don't think we're going to see Horizon Forbidden West or Horizon Zero Dawn make its way onto the Nintendo Switch. Even though that might be interesting to see it happen, though, it's unlikely that we're ever going to see something like that, to be exact. So still nice to see that a actual baseball game or a good baseball game is coming to the Nintendo Switch, though. But just don't expect this don't look at this as a sign of, oh, PlayStation games are going to pop up on the Nintendo Switch. I seriously doubt that's going to happen at all, though. We also learned that Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League supposedly has now been delayed until 2023, though. There could be multiple reasons why this game could be delayed. Some might point to more time to polish. Some of it may be because of the COVID, though. Others are pointing to the possibility with the AT&T and WB merger completed, though, that there may be calls to sort of kill up the video game division of WB, WB Games and all. Nothing has been confirmed at this time, so we'll have to wait and see what truly emerges, though. But in either case, it looks like Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League has been delayed till 2023. We also learned that supposedly Grand Theft Auto 6 has now been confirmed by Rockstar to be in development, though. No word on when the game will come out or any snapshots or anything like that. It's possible they may show something this year, or we may not see anything at all. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm still very cautious about this game because of Rockstar in general. We saw how they handled the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition. That was pretty much handled poorly, too. Their focus on sort of live services, though. So I'm going to take a cautious approach to this one, to be exact. Meanwhile, we learned that they are pushing forward with basically the next gen version of Grand Theft Auto 5 that will be coming to the Xbox Series S and X and PS5. Reports have come out that they basically are going to have ray tracing and up to 60 frames per second, which is certainly nice. But the first trailer they showed of it saying coming to next gen consoles at the time, PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. Let's just say, for what they showed, it looked like just basically what you would get if you got the game on the PS4 or the Xbox One. So, hopefully the next gen version will look nice, though, but I do hope that once Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, that it puts milking Grand Theft Auto 5 to death to rest, to be exact, though. So, we'll have to see what Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to look like, so time will ultimately tell. We also learned that Dying Light 2, at least on the Xbox Series S, will only hit 1080p 30 frames per second, though, as there's no option for a performance mode or anything like that compared to what's on the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, though. I will admit to some degree that this is kind of a bit disappointing, though, to see that it doesn't have that option, though. But on the other hand, though, based on what footage that was shown from Digital Foundry, though, it doesn't seem to be as bad as some people might look at it, though. From what Digital Foundry show, it looks like the game runs at a very steady 30 frames per second, which, again, not bad or anything like that, but I don't deny that a 60 frames per second option would have been nice, though. Now, could, say, Techland add a 60 frames per second option for the Xbox Series S down the road? That's a possibility, though. After all, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which was released on Xbox Series S, though, the game, when that came out, only ran at 30 frames per second, but then eventually they updated it and added a option to have it run at 60 frames per second with a lower resolution. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that basically we could see a 60 frames per second option for the Xbox Series S version, but for now that doesn't seem to be the case. Plus, Dying Light 2, apparently there are reviews all over the place. Some like it, some are pointing out some major graphical issues, and Techland has recently came out saying don't play the game early until the day one patch has come out. So there are certainly a lot of issues emerging with Dying Light 2, and it seems to be all over the place, from some of the issues to a lot of the reviews where some are okay with it, some aren't, to be exact. And last but not least, outside of what I talked about in terms of Ghostwire Tokyo, though, which like I said, the gameplay looks awesome, though I do want to talk about two non-gaming things, to be exact. The first one is that we just saw the first trailer for the Halo, the series, that will be premiering on Paramount Plus, though, and judging from what I've seen so far, I'm not entirely 100% sold on it, to be exact, though, but at the same time, I will give it a chance, though. I mean, video game adaptations, movies or TV shows adaptations of video games can be sort of a hit and miss. Yes, they don't exactly have the greatest reputation, but then again, we've seen success like the Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu, to Witcher doing very well, and same with the Castlevania series, so I'll give the Halo, the series, the benefit of the doubt for the time being, though, and see how well this one plays out. Hopefully it will be good, but time will ultimately tell, though. As far as Cortana's look and everything like that, it's nothing really to lose sleep over, but some people are making a big deal of it. I'm not, though. And last but not least, and I maybe forgot to mention this, though, and was that Disney and Marvel showed off the trailer for their upcoming Disney Plus series, the Moon Knight trailer, and judging from what I've seen so far, this one looks good. I love the direction that they're going with Moon Knight, though. It's definitely one I'm going to be keeping an eye out for when that premieres on Disney Plus. So it's worth taking a look at that one, to be exact. Okay, with the quick My Two Cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Cyberpunk 2077. Now, Cyberpunk 2027 did not get off to the best start for CD Projekt Red when that game launched in 2020, though. Basically, what was supposed to be a hyped up, people looking forward to play, turned out to be one hell of a dumpster fire, to be exact, though. The game launched, at least on the PS4 and the Xbox One, in the worst possible states. There were reports of bugs and glitches all over the place, though, and CD Projekt Red was hit from a lot of people. Fans were not happy about it, though. Investors were not happy about it, and it got to the point where Sony had to pull the game off their digital storefronts, to the point that CD Projekt Red had to start offering refunds, to be exact. This led to pretty much CD Projekt Red focusing not only on hot fixes and patches, but it also led to a point where they basically canceled what was supposed to have the multiplayer mode, to really pushing back, sort of delaying whatever expansions or DLCs that they had planned to, compared to what we saw with the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, though. And well, the game kind of became sort of an example of what developers should not do when it comes to launching some of their games, and it became a reminder of the whole ship it broken now, patch it later kind of attitude that not everyone is pleased about, though. Well, recently there has been some reports that supposedly a PS5 version and maybe its Xbox Series S and X version may be spotted, and that we could be getting that version soon. In an article posted by Eurogamer, it reads that, quote, a next-gen version has reportedly been spotted on PlayStation's back-end database. According to the article, it reads, a PS5 version of Cyberpunk 2077 may be on the way. Though right now, it's just a rumor sparked by an early sighting of the game on PlayStation Store database, Twitter account PlayStation Game Size, which routinely and accurately provides us with early information about the file size and release date of upcoming titles, believes the PS5 version of the game will release in mid-February, early March. It tallies with the release window of CD Projekt Red's shared with us back in October. However, if true, Cyberpunk 2077 will be up against stiff competition from the likes of Elden Rings and Horizon Forbidden West, both of which drop around the same time. Excuse me. Don't forget that players with the current gen version will be able to upgrade to the next gen edition for no extra charge. Cyberpunk 2077 standing on Steam has recently improved. It is now a very positive user rating and is one of the top selling games on the platform. As Wes summarized at the time, Cyberpunk 2077 suffered a disastrous launch and caused developer CD Projekt Red's severe reputation damage it has yet to recover from. It went so badly, CD Projekt Red changed how it operates to develop multiple AAA games and expansions in parallel, and only began promoting its creation much closer to release. So, assuming this information is correct, though, it would be very interesting to see what changes that they've made to both not only the PS5, but also the Xbox Series X and S as well, to see how that game will run, though. I am very curious to see how it will run on the Series S, because as of this time, though, the Series S version only has 1080p 30 frames per second, and supposedly it's actually somewhat stable in a way, though. It kind of comes off as what we should have gotten from the PS4 and the Xbox One version, to be exact. Still, it's going to be very tough for CD Projekt Red, because this game, like the article mentioned, and it's true, it really has damaged their reputation really, really bad. And at this point, I do wonder if people will still be interested in picking this game up, though, compared to something like, say, Grand Theft Auto 5, to be exact, since we're getting a next-gen version of that one. So this is going to be a tough hill to climb for CD Projekt Red. Whether they can pull it off or not remains to be seen. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens, but overall, though, very curious to hear and see how the next-gen version of Cyberpunk 2077 is going to work. Whether or not that's going to help rebuild CD Projekt Red's reputation or not, that remains to be seen at this time, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one, we're going to be talking about Sony buying Bungie. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation with Sony and Bungie. Now, one of the kind of surprising things that we have seen this generation, though, in regards to the consoles between, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, is that Microsoft has been sort of very aggressive this generation, though, and we've seen them really push hard to make the Xbox Series X and S a bigger success and learn from their mistakes for the Xbox One. One of the things we've seen is that they have recently been acquiring studios, though. In 2020, though, they were able to acquire Bethesda, the studio that worked on games ranging from the Fallout, Dishonor, Evil Within, the Wolfenstein, Doom series, though, and basically bringing them into as part of the development team over for the Xbox brand itself, along with other studios like Ninja Theory and Psychonauts, as Ninja Theory and Double Fine. I said the wrong name, Double Fine, to be exact, though. And earlier this year, in January, we learned that they were able to pick up Activision Blizzard, which was really interesting to see them do that, though, especially considering the whole controversy Activision Blizzard was in recently, especially with the whole being investigated, with the whole workplace environment and the sexual harassment suits that we've been hearing going on over there, though. And this has led to questions about what was Sony going to do about it, though. Was how Sony was going to respond and everything like that, since they have seen their kind of stock dipped following basically the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Well, recently, though, Sony has announced that they have acquired a studio of their own, and this one is basically the studio Bungie, the creators of the original Halo series and the current creators of the Destiny and Destiny 2 franchise, though. In several different articles, including this one from GameIndustry.biz, excuse me, it reads, Sony Interactive Entertainment today announced a deal to acquire Bungie for $3.6 billion, the latest in a string of big-ticket consolidation deals in the gaming industry. After the deal was closed, Bungie will be an independent subsidiary of SIE run by a board of directors consisted of the current CEO and chairman, Peter Pearson, and the rest of the studio's current management team. Sony has said Bungie will remain a multi-platform studio with the option to self-publish and reach players wherever they choose to play. At present, the studio is working on maintaining Destiny 2, expanding the Destiny franchise, and working on a new IP. We have a strong partnership with Bungie since the inception of the Destiny franchise, and I couldn't be more thrilled to officially welcome the studio to the PlayStation family, said, President and CEO Jim Ryan. This is an important step in our strategy to expand the reach of PlayStation to a much wider audience. We understand how vital Bungie community is to the studio and looking forward to supporting them as they remain independent and continue to grow. Like Bungie, our community is core to PlayStation DNA, and our shared passion for our gamers and building the best place to play will now even evolve even further. Pearson said SIE supports the studio's dual goal of making generation-spanning entertainment while staying creative independent, though. So basically the idea of them buying Bungie is kind of interesting, though. While it may not be on the same level as Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, which around was like $70 billion, although bear in mind Microsoft has like trillions of dollars in the bank, though. It is kind of interesting the fact that Sony is going to allow Bungie to continue to make games from like multi-platforms, though. Now, that doesn't mean that suddenly they're going to hand them say, hey, take Horizon Forbidden West and make that a multi-platform title. I don't think they're going to do something like that, but I guess they're obviously going to say, like, if Destiny 3 does come out, though, they'll be like, yeah, go ahead, bring it to as many systems as you possibly can. So it's sort of interesting, this kind of approach that Sony is taking. However, I could see a scenario in a way where basically you could have a situation where Sony could go up to Bungie and say, hey, we have these IPs that no one has touched so far, like SOCOM Navy SEAL, Resistance, Resistance, Killzone, or something like that, and figure, hey, would you guys be interested in reviving some of these IPs? Which certainly that would be nice, though. However, which I certainly am not against, though, but it also seems to be another strategy that Sony may be doing with this, and that is to try to jump into the live service side of things, especially after what we've seen with games like Destiny 2. In an article from Push Square, it reads that Sony plans to launch 10 PS5, PS4 live service games by March 2026, though. According to the article, it reads that, quote, Sony appears to be all in on plans to expand its portfolio beyond big-budget single-player experience, as the Japanese company confirmed it has 10 live service games in the work. They all plan to release by March 2026. The news comes from the firm's latest earnings calls, which also touches on the recent Bungie acquisition, though. I'm a little concerned about that part, though. We've seen live service games don't always do as well as a lot of people have hoped for. For every game like Destiny 2, which seems to be mixed for some people like it, some people don't, to games like Warframe, we've also seen live service games that have bombed really badly. Look at like the Avengers game is a good example, or look at games like Anthem. Look how badly that bombed, to be exact, to the point where basically EA decided they would not support the reboot and just do updated maintenance to the game and pretty much change the direction they were going with games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect to a certain degree. So I'm a little bit concerned about the idea of launching 10 live services game. I do hope that doesn't mean that they're going to abandon single player games, let alone put live services in single player games, which I really don't think there should be though, but we'll have to wait and see what comes out of it though. But seeing how we've seen not every live service game do well, especially with Ubisoft's obsession with live services though, I do have some concerns about this approach, but time will tell if this plays out well for Sony or not. However, it doesn't seem to be that everybody seems to be on board with the idea of Sony buying Bungie though. One in particular, and he's notorious for making comments, is of course Michael Patchard. He has a history of saying things that some people don't exactly 100% agree with him on, and he has a time of being wrong, but there are times he could be right though, to be exact. Basically, here's what Patchard had to say, quote, basically, Patchard reckoned that the acquisition is grounded in Sony trying to keep up with an ever-shifting industry. Sony, I think, just did a Me Too statement and said, we're not going to be left behind, so we're buying Bungie, he told Yahoo Finance. Patchard continues, just to compare and contrast, EA bought Respawn about 3 to 4 years ago for $700 million with 400 developers, and those guys generate $700 million a year in revenue. Bungie does about $200 million in revenue, so I think Sony vastly overpaid. Patchard's approached this from a revenue point of view. That's kind of his job without really factoring in Sony's potential plans for the future. Bungie may not make crazy amount of profits right now, relatively speaking, but we know that Sony wants to significantly boost its live service lineup. Early impressions are that Bungie will play a major role in establishing PlayStation's position in the space, but again, Patchard's all about the current numbers. I think this was a statement that Sony's not going to let Microsoft get ahead of it, so it just buys something out of desperation, Patchard added, in a rather damning fashion. It's not really a deal that makes a whole lot of sense to me, he concludes. Whether you agree with him or not, that's your call though. Maybe this maybe this might work out for Sony, maybe it's not. And like I said, Patchard could be right, but he also has a history of being wrong. I remember him making comments a while back that Nintendo should develop for other systems while they develop the successor for the Wii U. And, well, let's just say not everyone exactly 100% agree with this. Is it possible Sony may have overpaid when they bought Bungie? It's true. That could be true, though, but we'll see how it all plays out for them, though. And last but not least, though, we do have Sony has released their financial report in regards to the PS5, and well, let's just say it isn't actually sunshine and rainbows for them, though. In another article posted on Push Square, excuse me, it reads that, quote, PlayStation 5 console sales have now reached a total of 17.3 million as of December 31st, 2021. It means Sony sold a further 3.9 million units during the third quarter of its 2021 fiscal year. Excuse me. However, while the PS5 has been the fastest selling PlayStation console of all time during its lifespan so far, these latest results mark when that it's no longer the case. During the same time frame last generation, Sony sold 20.2 million PS4 consoles. Sales are down compared to the same quarter 3 period of the previous fiscal year, when Sony moved 4.5 million PS5 system. The Japanese company has blamed the ongoing semiconductor shortage for this, which has made producing the consoles at a rapid rate much harder. Sony expects these supplies issues to continue, but also reckons the difference will be made up over time with future quarters returning higher sales numbers. As a result, Sony has lowered its overall forecast of PS5 shipment for the fiscal year to 11.5 million units. This is down from the 14.8 million it's projected for the full year Revenue estimated of the company games and network service division is also lower to $1.48 billion. There's no doubt in my mind, because of the chip shortage situation, this is having an impact on a lot of folks. Microsoft is also being impacted, particularly with the Xbox Series X, and even Nintendo has felt it as well. But yeah, I mean, not really great news for the PS5 side, though. Does this mean that this is the end of PlayStation or anything like that? No, I don't see this as being the end of PlayStation in any shape or any form, though. But I don't deny the fact that this is obviously going to be, Sony's going to have to take a different approach or course correct in certain situations, though. And when you look back at something like, say, the Xbox Series S, though, you could argue that Microsoft, in a way, kind of did make the smart move. The Xbox Series S really came out at a very good time with it, offering not only a cheaper version of a current / next gen console, though, but they were able to manufacture that one a bit more than you could say with the Series X, though, compared to what Sony's doing in terms of producing more PS4s in a way, though, which again isn't necessarily bad, but for those who are hoping to jump into the next generation of consoles, though, it looks like you're going to have to wait maybe a bit longer before that to happen, though. So I will have to say, I'd say with this current situation, I think Microsoft kind of got it right, to be exact, though. Again, this isn't the end for Sony or the end of PlayStation itself, but it's clear Sony's going to have to rethink their strategy, though. So overall, the Bungie deal is kind of interesting, to be exact, though. It's not nearly, I will say it's surprising, but not near on the same level as Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard or Bethesda, to be exact, though. Still a little iffy about them launching 10 live services game by March of 2026, though. It might work, but we've seen how other studios have pushed live services games before, and they don't always pan out as well as they had hoped for, so I'm a little iffy about it, though. As for their financial report, though, I don't think this signals the end of the PS5, or do I view the PS5 as a flop or anything like that, but I do think it signals that Sony may have to rethink their strategy going forward for this generation of consoles, especially with the PS5 and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with the FTC, and apparently they are now looking into the acquisition Microsoft has made with Activision Blizzard. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, look into basically Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard. Now, one of the things about that acquisition was that I came off with it as being kind of mixed on the whole thing. On one hand, I do hope that the acquisition does lead to a better workplace environment at Activision Blizzard and clean up the sort of the issues that the company has faced, though, right from the allegations of the lawsuits they are facing to how some of the employees are being treated, especially with Raven Soft recently deciding, the testers there at Raven Software deciding to unionize, to be exact. So my hope was that there would be some change to the culture and change to having every studio do Call of Duty, to be exact, and change the way Call of Duty is being done. But on the other hand, the other side of the coin that cannot be ignored is the monopoly issue. And there is a concern about the idea of like some of these companies gobbling up these studios and then create a situation where there's no real competition whatsoever. And that's been sort of one of the concerns I have about this, even with the Sony buying Bungie situation as well. There is always that kind of concern about there being like really no competition. Well, it seems as though that the FTC is going to be taking a look at basically the whole Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard and all. So in an article first posted by Game Industry Biz, it reads that, quote, The U.S. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, will be handling the antitrust review of Microsoft acquiring of Activision Blizzard. The FTC is set to investigate whether the purchase will harm competition instead of the U.S. Justice Department, a source close to the matter told Bloomberg. The publication pointed out that antitrust reviews can be the responsibility of either entity, with the FTC usually more aggressive in its policy than the Justice Department. The FTC sued to block NVIDIA's $40 million acquisition of chip manufacturer ARM, with recent reports saying that the purchase could be abandoned. A couple of weeks ago, the Justice Department and the FTC announced joint plans to revise merger guidelines, as there have been a surge in M&A mergers and acquisitions over the last few years, Reuters has reported, though. There's also been reports about the person who will be handling be handling this, though, if I can find it. If there is, where can I find it? Oh, maybe it's another one, though. According to this, where is it? Who is there? A person handling this? Shoot, yeah, apologize. Okay, here it is. This is from Forbes, though. It says, according to Bloomberg, though, the FTC is handling this one. That's partially interesting because the FTC chair, Linda Khan, is a noted critic of big tech, and under her watch, the industry has sued to stop two major deals. NVIDIA planned to take over chip designer ARMS, and Lockheed Martin's agreement to purchase Aerojet Rocketdyne Holdings, though. Khan came to prominence in 2017 when she published a Yale Law Journal article that criticized the U.S. antitrust framework. She called for more stingy policy to regulate tech giants like Amazon. After her confirmation as FTC chair last year, Amazon and Facebook asked that Khan be recused from antitrust investigations against them due to comments she made about the company in the past. So the fact that basically the FTC is going to be taking a look at this, though, isn't really that surprising at all. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, they took a look at other companies as well when these mergers and acquisitions have come up, though. Now, some people think that this could spell doom and gloom, and that this could basically mean that this deal, that the Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, may not go through. Others don't really see it that way, saying this is a common thing and all. And it sounds like more than likely this deal will probably go through. In fact, one article kind of pointed out in an article from basically called Sports ICO, the business of sports, and the and the person wrote that Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal likely to survive legal scrutiny, though. Anyway, the article says, quote, Microsoft's January 18 announcement that it intends to purchase Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, which will mark the highest dollar amount ever paid by a tech company for an acquisition, has rocked the video game and esport industry. The massive dollar figures cope with concern about diminishing competition, invite legal questions about whether the deal will satisfy U.S. regulators. Odds are it will. Activision Blizzard published Call of Duty, Overwatch, and other popular games with associated esport platform. The company has been ranked the 5th largest publisher in North America, and according to statistics, or Statista, possess the largest share of worldwide esports markets. Microsoft is arguing Activision Blizzard would be viewed as a vertical merger, meaning the blending of two companies that could provide different services in the same production chain. In contrast, when two rivals join hands, it's called a horizontal merger. The Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice will assert how the deal, which isn't expected to close until 2023, will affect commerce in the United States. Either agency under federal antitrust laws can attempt to block a proposed merger or acquisition if it would satisfy or sustainably lessen competition, which could harm consumers through increased price, limited choice, or diminish incentives for innovation. In 2020, the FTC sued to block Edward Personal Care Company's proposal of Edgewell, of $1.37 billion acquisition of its main competitor, Harry Inc. The FTC was concerned about the removal of a critical, disrupted rival that has driven down prices and spurred innovation in an industry that was previously dominated by two major suppliers, which one of whom is the acquirer. A week later, the two companies abandoned the deal. But the government sometimes loses. In 2019, the U.S. Appeal Court for the District of D.C. rejected the DOJ's attempt to block a vertical merger between AT&T and Time Warner. The DOJ failed to provide similar examples of past vertical mergers that were blocked. The AT&T and Time Warner merger, the court also reasoned, didn't appear likely to impact the price in statistically significant ways, though. So it does seem to indicate that, according to what this person's writing, it doesn't sound like the FTC is going to kill this deal or anything like that. Again, a lot could happen between now and 2023, though. But I would say most likely, though, the deal will probably go through and Microsoft will own Activision Blizzard, though. What this means going forward for some of their IPs, again, it's too early to tell. Microsoft said that they're committed to having Call of Duty appear on PlayStation and multiple platforms, but that could technically change over time, but we'll have to wait and see what emerges from that. So overall, not surprised the FTC is looking into this, though. It is possible that the FTC could stop Microsoft from buying Activision Blizzard, but I'm leaning towards the most likely scenario is going to be that assuming everything all checks out, that most likely the deal will go through and Microsoft will own Activision Blizzard. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cents video, and this is Nintendo releasing their financial report. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo, particularly their financial report. Now, the Switch has been out since 2017, and no matter how you look at it, though, the Switch continues to do very well for Nintendo, though. There's been some ups and downs, but it's nowhere near the level that the Wii was during the Wii U era, though. And so basically, the Switch continues to do very well, and obviously, it doesn't seem that momentum is stopping anytime soon at this moment. Even though its rivals Sony and Microsoft have released their next gen consoles. In terms of how far the system has sold, according to their page, in terms of dedicated video game sales units, the Switch currently has sold, in terms of hardware, 103.54 million units, though. So it has already passed they already passed the Nintendo 3DS, though. It has certainly passed the Wii, and has certainly passed all the other consoles, other handhelds and consoles. The two systems it has yet to pass are the original Game Boy, which currently sits at 118.69 million units sold, and the Nintendo DS, which sits at 154.02 million units sold. So it hasn't reached that point just yet, though, but there is the possibility it could. I mean, I could see it overtaking the original Game Boy, to be exact, though. We know that it certainly has overtaken the original PlayStation, though. It might overtake the PS4, depending on how things play out, though. But as far as overtaking the original Nintendo DS, or even the PS2 for that matter, with both systems sitting around 150 million units, though, that I think is that certainly is a tall order for Nintendo, though. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that the Nintendo Switch could pull it off, though, but it's certainly not going to be easy for Nintendo, especially with the chip shortage situation, though. So, in terms of it, though, the Switch is continuing to sell very well for Nintendo, though. It certainly has broken into the 100 million mark, and I think they should be happy about that, though. The big challenge is whether or not they can keep that momentum going, especially with the chip shortage situation that has been going on lately, though, in which, while the Switch is certainly selling very well, it looks like some areas Nintendo had to adjust, which, excuse me, has unfortunately not helped which unfortunately isn't great news. According to Nintendo Life, it turns out that Nintendo Switch they had to drop their Switch hardware estimate, but expected increased profits though. What it means is though, it says this: in its second quarter results, Nintendo cuts its Switch hardware sale forecast from 24 million. It has now shaved another million off of the estimated 23 million units for the fiscal year. That's still an impressive figure, with the system officially passing the Wii's lifetime sales already. Other aspects of its estimate are up, however. All variations of income and profit has increased estimates, ranging from boost of 3.1 to 4.3. Exchange rates are a factor, but telling Nintendo has increased its software sale estimates by 20 million units, from 200 million to 220 million units, indicated in the positive sell momentum it seems. As for the actual profits, though, for the 9 months, they've included in Q3, they have their net sales at 11.5 billion US dollars, down from 6% on previous years. Operation profits at $4.1 billion, down from 9.3 on the previous year, and its net profit at $3.2 billion, down from 2.5 on the previous year. So, somewhat of a mixed bag for Nintendo. The Switch is still doing very well for Nintendo, though, but obviously, though, they had to make some adjustments, though, and I think some of it is due to basically the chips ongoing situation in regards of the chip shortage situation. As for some of the games, to be exact, though, well, a lot of the games seem to be doing well for Nintendo. In terms of the top selling games, you have Mario Kart 8, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Super Smash Bros., Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl, and Ring Fit Adventure. But one game in particular that some people are wondering is, what about, say, Metroid Dread, that game that launched back in October? Well, excuse me, we have supposedly a report from them, and that includes this from Nintendo Life. It reads, quote, up to 31 of December of 2021, Metroid Dread has sold 2.74 million units, which accounts for nearly 3 months of sales. While that's not huge when compared to the massive multimedia juggernauts like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing, it's a very solid result for a series whose sales numbers don't tend to align with the mind share it enjoys with Nintendo fans. In Japan, especially, Metroid has never been a big seller. In context to the overall Metroid series, it's likely to become the IP's bestseller already, barring a continuous loss of momentum, possibly I'm not saying correctly. According to an estimated guarded from Nintendo's own data, it's only around 100,000 units shy of overtaking Metroid Prime for that honor. It's already passed the original NES Metroid, which has a lifespan of 2.73 million copies. So, given the series' modest sale history, it's perhaps unsurprising that Dread hasn't had an outstanding launch in the biggest Nintendo first-party picture. The game was even mentioned in the company's summary when accounting for the year-to-date success. It is listed in the list of Nintendo's million sellers. It's down in 11th place, edging out the top 10 by Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Of course, it had less time in the market than most games on the list, and we certainly say its sales figures is positive, but it has not been a runaway smash hit. Overall, Metroid Dread has exceeded the standards of its own franchise sales, even if the numbers are still well off what you expect from major release like Super Mario, Animal Crossing, Legend of Zelda, and so on. So, it may not be a huge numbers though, but it's nice to see that Metroid Dread did very well indeed. I hope it does well enough that it convinced Nintendo to perhaps continue the series, though, much like how we've seen with the Fire Emblem series, how Fire Emblem Awakening really got that series right back on its feet, though, especially with the last game, Three Houses, which has done very well for Koei Tecmo and Nintendo. I believe Koei Tecmo handled Three Houses, though, I believe so about that, to the point that it's now become a more stable franchise, though. So I'm hopeful that this does well enough for Nintendo that it makes Metroid a more stable franchise, and I'm curious to see what direction they take the series going following Metroid Dread and all, though. And who knows, maybe this should open the door to the idea of maybe Nintendo considering maybe bringing Star Fox back, for that matter, though. I mean, we've seen the success Metroid has done, Xenoblade has done, Fire Emblem has done. I think maybe this might be a time for Nintendo to consider maybe giving Star Fox another shot and all. And last but certainly not least, several questions have come up to Nintendo in regards to the decision of, say, acquisitions and the whole thing about the metaverse, to be exact, though. In terms of the acquisition question, though, this was brought up to them, and Nintendo has responded by this, saying, quote, "Our brand was built upon products crafted with dedications by our employees, and having a large number of people who don't possess Nintendo's DNA in our group, though, will not be a plus for the company, though." Tokyo-based consultant Toto from Bloomberg says, quote, I really having a hard time imagining which of the big three ones could even be interested in buying. Nintendo will always stay Nintendo. The company has always relied on first-party games, and I don't see any reason why they should change. So it seems as though right now, as far as any major acquisitions compared to what Microsoft and Sony are doing, it sounds like that's out of the question at this time, though. Still, I mean, if the acquisitions continue to be exact, it is possible at some point Nintendo could be sort of pressure into considering making big acquisitions for themselves, though. But right now, where things stand at the moment, though, it doesn't seem like Nintendo has any major plans on any major acquisitions, though. That could change. They may consider buying another studio, maybe in the style similar to what we saw with Nintendo buying Next Level Games, so that could technically happen, but right now that doesn't seem to be the case at this time. As for basically the metaverse or the NFTs, though, this question was brought up to them, and supposedly they have responded to this to a certain degree, and one of the questions, and in response to terms of the metaverse, they say, quote, Metaverse is attracting the attention of many companies around the world, and we believe that it has great potential. In addition, when the metaverse is introduced in the media, software such as Animal Crossing, it's sometimes cited as an example, and in this sense, we are interested in this technology. On the other hand, it is difficult to define what kind of surprises and fun can be provided to consumers by the metaverse. As a company that offers entertainment, we place the utmost importance on how to deliver fresh surprise and fun to our customers. If we can find a way to communicate our Nintendo approach to many people in an easy to understand manner, we may be able to consider something, but we do not believe that this is the case at the present. So, at this time, though, they're not hugely jumping on board on the whole metaverse idea, but they're not. It doesn't seem like they're going to say no to it either, though. And obviously, point out, and you could say Animal Crossing to some extent is kind of sort of like a metaverse in a way, where everyone meets together and so forth in a digital world or social stuff. I don't know a huge amount of details about it, though, but it's nice to know that they're not jumping on board for the sake of it. Same with sort of like the NFT things for the time being, though. It's still a little iffy with that whole thing, to be exact. So it's nice to know that Nintendo is at the very least not jumping hugely into the whole metaverse thing, though. So overall, I think the takeaway is that the Switch is continuing to sell very well for Nintendo, and I don't see them abandoning it anytime soon. Though, however, it is going to be a tall order for them to hit the kind of sales number we see for the Nintendo DS and the PlayStation 2, though. And while the system is certainly selling very well, some estimates were down, and some of that has to do with the ongoing chip shortage situation, though. And of course, we learned about the whole situation around acquisitions. Right now, Nintendo is not going all in on acquisitions at this time, though. That could change over time, but for right now, they seem to be happy where they are at the moment. And I do appreciate that they're not going 100% on board of the metaverse as we've been seeing other companies have done, though. It's not to say that they won't explore the idea or anything like that, but I do appreciate it that they're not jumping right in right away as we've seen other companies have done, especially with the whole NFT situation that we've been seeing lately, and how other companies are trying to embrace it, especially when you hear Ubisoft saying we don't get it in regards of NFTs and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this, about the possibility of an update to Cyberpunk 2077 for next-gen systems, though? Are you looking forward to picking up the next-gen version of Cyberpunk 2077, though? Or do you think it's too little too late and there's no reason to pick up the next-gen version at all? What are your thoughts about Sony buying Bungie? Do you think this is a right idea for Sony to buy Bungie in any way? Do you think this could open the door to the possibility to maybe reviving some of Sony's old IPs? Do you like the idea of possibly 10 new live services games coming out by March 2026? Or do you have concerns about that, though? What are your thoughts about the FTC looking into Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard? Are you surprised by this? Are you not surprised by this? Do you feel that the FTC will stop this deal from happening? Or do you feel that they will let this deal go through? And what are your thoughts about Nintendo's financial reports? Do you think that it's impressive that the Switch is still selling very well, though? Do you think that do you think the situation for the Switch could be a little bit different if the chip shortage situation wasn't going on? Are you glad that Nintendo is not acquiring big studios at this time? Are you glad that they're not jumping aboard the NFT gravy train or the metaverse gravy train in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!